Hey YouTube, so today we're going to talk about the Kel-Tec PMR-30. Shoots a 22 Magnum and it's been all over YouTube, but I figured I'd give a little bit of history, give you my thoughts, and have a little fun along the way. So maybe some of you don't know this, but the PMR-30 actually had a predecessor. It was called the Grendel P-30, and it was sold by the Grendel Firearms Company, whose owner was George Kellgren, who then went on to form Kel-Tec in around 1994. Both guns, of course, are 22 Magnum, and both guns hold 30 plus 1 round. The Grendel P-30 was slightly larger, slightly thicker, and slightly heavier, being at 26 ounces versus the PMR-30s, which is approximately 19 ounces, I believe, fully loaded. Now, the PMR-30 wasn't introduced until 2011, which is many years after the P-30 had gone out of production. And thus the PMR-30 was able to take advantage of materials and manufacturing techniques that were not available at the time the P-30 was being manufactured. But still, if you place the two side by side, you can definitely see a family resemblance. So what else history-wise? The gun, when it was originally introduced, the PMR-30, had a fluted barrel, and the twist rate, I believe, was 1:9. It has since been increased to 1:11, and the fluting is gone. They were having problems with the bullets keyholing, so that's why they changed the twist rate of the rifling. The early models had what I would call an inferior plastic. It was very shiny and slick, but they were also having problems with shrinkage or mold, shrinkage or droopage of the front of this gun. So there was a space right here at the front, and it looked very unprofessional. And I know what you're thinking. I can just see the Kel-Tec engineers standing around talking about this problem.
It shrinks?
Like a frightened turtle.
Why does it shrink?
It just does.
Yes, there was shrinkage. Anyway, they went ahead and they changed the plastic, the polymer, to a better glass-filled version, and they got rid of that problem. Another very important improvement that they made was to add metal as a reinforcement to the breech, so that it completely covers the rim of a loaded cartridge. So that the cartridge is fully supported. You can see that in some of the other reviews, the cartridges and the older ones, not being fully supported, were exploding. Not that bullets don't explode, but they were exploding up the back. The back of the case was blowing out, and it was causing all sorts of problems. Never mind, it was a very unsafe condition. So the metal has been increased to the back, so the cases are fully supported. So what is the major attraction to this gun? It's the fact that it can hold 31 rounds. 30 rounds in the mag, 1 in the pipe. And man, it is fun to shoot at the range. Now, having 30 rounds in the mag is great, but you have to be careful when loading the magazine. As you load the magazine, it gets a little bit stiffer as you get up to 20, and as you go over 25, you definitely have to exert more force in order to push these down. Now, what can happen is, as you do that, you can dent the cartridge right in this area. From using the rim pushing down the other cartridge, you can dent it, and what will happen is, it'll jam in the gun, causing feed problems. So if you want to avoid that, you can either be extremely careful when you are loading your mag, or you can just download it to 25. I've never had any problems when I load it to 20 to 25 rounds, feeds them all perfectly. When I go up to 30, once in a while, those last couple rounds, I have dented them, and they do tend to have feed issues then. The PMR-30 now comes in multiple different colors, and you can get other options such as a 5-inch extended barrel, which comes with a flash hider. It is threaded, and some people would think that, hey, I'd put a suppressor on that, but if you put a suppressor on this, it's not rated for it. Kel-Tec actually says on their website and in their literature that if you use a suppressor with this firearm, you void the warranty because the pressures are going to be too high and it's going to cause damage. The sights, they're high visibility fiber optic sights, and they work pretty well. The problem is in bright sunlight, that front sight tends to get washed out, at least in my experience. The front sight is adjustable. On the earlier models, it was not. To complement the fiber optics, you also have the ability to put a red dot optic on top. Right here, if you go onto the Kel-Tec website, they will sell different plates for some of the more popular models. There's also an aftermarket mount which you can buy that'll screw to this. You can allow you to put on many of the others. But right now, Kel-Tec only sells, I believe, a couple different ones. The PMR-30 has a very generous rail on the bottom. You can hang on just about any kind of light, flashlight, laser combination that's out there right now. You can also even get one of those bayonets if you wanted to. I'm not sure why you'd walk around with a bayonet on your pistol, but heck, some people like that kind of thing. Okay, some things I really don't care for about the PMR-30. Well, it's very ammo finicky. You do not want to use any kind of rounds where it's a soft leaded tip. Definitely use the ammo that Kel-Tec suggests. Otherwise, you're going to have a jam-o-matic. I've seen some people's guns on YouTube where pretty much every other round is jamming up, and that is exactly what happened to me when I used some of the... I'll have to try and figure out what this ammo is. I don't know at the very moment, but anything that's a soft lead tip is going to jam your gun up big time. I had maybe 10 in a row that fired fine. Otherwise, it was just jam after jam after jam, and my son was shooting it. Used the recommended ammo with this gun. Another thing I don't care for, and part of this is because of the way this is designed. Right along here, front and back, in some of the places where your fingers are going to be moving and your fleshy part of your hands is going to be sitting up in here, this was designed as a clamshell, so this piece comes apart, and then they're bolted together in order to make the gun shape. Right along this edge here where the seams come together, they don't come together exactly perfectly, and there's a little sharp edge all the way along, front and back, and right underneath here where your middle finger sits. And that can get a little bit sensitive if you have more sensitive hands. So keep that in mind. Pricing. These were originally released around 2011, and since that time, they've been extremely difficult to find. Now, I've been seeing them anywhere from $350 on up to $550, depending on who it is, who's got it, who needs it. Sometimes people are willing to pay that, but in my area, they're running around $400. And for your $400, you get something that's quite a bit of fun. You could also consider this a backpacking gun. Where else are you going to get a chance to be able to carry 61 rounds along with you, ready to go in your magazines, and then possibly put another, 50, 100 rounds in your backpack and weigh almost nothing. Probably fully loaded with the 2 mags and an extra 100 rounds, you're probably going to be under 28 ounces for the whole thing. Where else can you have that kind of firepower at your fingertips with that little weight? But I see its primary use as just having a great time at the range. You can go and kill some varmints with this. You could probably defend your life with it. 22 Magnum is not a round that you should be frowning at. And the 22 Magnum rounds, I believe, are a little bit higher quality than your standard 22s. So I have actually never had, out of about 1,000 rounds that I've shot out of different PMR-30s, not necessarily this one, I've never had one fail to fire. I've had failures to feed with these soft lead tipped, but I've never had one fail to fire. That doesn't mean they don't happen. It just means I haven't seen it. So, final thoughts on the PMR-30. If you're looking for a gun to have fun at the range, something that's low recoil, has a great trigger, and you're willing to put up with it being very ammo finicky and some of its quirkiness about its fit and finish, and if you can find one for a reasonable price and you want to have some fun, I say go for it.
I don't know how you guys walk around with those things.